With October being Small Business Month, we thought it would be great to have Dan Kelly, President, CEO, and Chair of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, on our show. And he's part of the CFIB. CFIB is the largest small business association in Canada with more than 97,000 members advocating for small business with all levels of government, as well as providing advice, tools, and savings for its members. Dan has been with the CFIB since 1994 and became president in 2012. In 2015, Power and Influence magazine named him as one of the top 100 most powerful and influential people in government and politics. I want to welcome back to our show, Dan Kelly. Dan, welcome back.
Good to be with you. So nice to see you.
Great to have you. Great to have you. And as always, thought we'd have an informal chat about what's going on in the world of business and how you see things. And thought we'd start off with kind of a general question. There's been a lot of talk about per capita growth, per capita productivity in our country. And as of late, many, including the Bank of Canada, have commented and said that GDP or growth in Canada has been moving higher primarily because of the number of people coming to this country rather than primarily due to business productivity and businesses being more productive in general. With more than 97,000 businesses as part of your association, you have a unique perspective on business and the economy here in Canada. So I guess my first question, and a general one, is what is your opinion on this? And do you agree with this statement that the Bank of Canada has made? And how are businesses faring? Would you say in some respects, Canada might even be in a mild recession after you're speaking to a lot of these business owners?
Look, there is no question that businesses have been through hell and back over the last number of years. And every time we think that we're on some pathway to recovery, some other shock happens to the system. And not just international shocks, we've had a few of those, but so many goals against our own net, where we put in place dumb policies and stupid regulations that seem to drag the economy back. And so there's no question we do have a productivity challenge in Canada, and the productivity challenge in Canada is not because we have a less robust, less entrepreneurial business community. It's because we are fighting with one hand tied behind our back when governments throw all sorts of crap our way with new regulations and new or higher taxes again and again and again. So we got to fix that. And that's why my organization exists, is to push for public policy changes to ensure that businesses can grow and get ahead, hire more people, and become more productive. And in doing that, bring in more tax revenue that helps fund the social services that we as Canadians seem to like. But the productivity challenge is there. It's labor market productivity. We really do struggle with this. We have, I'm afraid to say, we have a bit of a declining work ethic in Canada, where I would say that I might have a few different opinions than others is on the importance of immigration. I think both remain important. Yes, immigration has, I think, masked some of the gaps and problems that we have in the country, but without it, we are going to have even greater problems going forward. We have too small a population to be able to fight effectively in the world. We have a declining birth rate naturally, and we need to make sure that we bring in talent from elsewhere in order to continue to fuel this. I talk to business owners all the time that say some of their foreign workers that come either temporarily or permanently are their most productive workers because they come to Canada wanting to make money and wanting to get ahead. And meanwhile, the young Canadians sitting on their phone, while their customers not getting served.
Yeah, it's interesting. Talking to the premier who's been on our show a few times now, he mentioned that there are so many openings for jobs in Ontario. They just don't have enough people to fill them. So, I think a lot of people would agree with what you're saying. We definitely need immigration, but at the same time, it definitely has masked some of the productivity issues that we are seeing. And the Bank of Canada has been, talked to us or has made mention of this several times. And that's their biggest concern, I think, more so now than inflation. As we know, inflation seems to be a lot more under control. As I said off the top of the show, October is Small Business Month, and RBC just put out a survey that found that half of Canadians are considering going into business for themselves. 72% of these entrepreneurs are thinking about how to transition into becoming an entrepreneur, their own entrepreneurs. And I guess, again, another general question, what advice would you give entrepreneurs in general, considering going into business for themselves? What do you think is I guess, the one of the most important things to know in terms of running a business? What would you say they should be focused on? Where should their focus be?
Look, I think it's a tremendous thing that despite everything and all the hurdles that we put into place in place in front of entrepreneurs, that there are still large numbers of Canadians that wish to go into business on their own, and you really do see this among many young Canadians that they're not necessarily keen to go into the confines of the traditional 9 to 5 job. Many of them are looking to work on projects here where they're working with people around the world, and then they have perhaps a part-time paid job, but they do a variety of things. It's one of the reasons why I feel so strongly that we've kind of, unions and others often denigrate self-employment as basically that people are in lust of a full-time paid job and are self-employed only because they can't find that. The opposite is true. Lots of people want to have the independence that comes with that. Now, in terms of advice for people that are looking to get into business, I think you really do have to make sure that you are hardened in steel to take on these kinds of challenges. This isn't easy, and having a mix, especially in the beginning, of paid employment with self-employment can be a good pathway to do that. For example, not every Uber driver is somebody that is just wishing to be a full-time taxi driver. Most of the Uber drivers have other kinds of either paid employment or self-employment, and they're looking to supplement their bills. And we as governments need to be agnostic about that and try to ensure that the labor legislation follows rather than leads how Canadians wish to work themselves. I don't think the average person that is looking to get into business recognizes just how big a role government will play in their future. And that's something that we always advise them to do, in addition to ensuring that they find good advisors, good financial advisors, legal advisors, accountants, and where possible, a business association can be a business owner's best friend as you start out on your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, seeking the help of professionals, no doubt, whether it's accountants, investment advisors, or associations. There you go, like yours, and investment advisors like ours is I think important to help those invest for their future, grow the business, and prepare them, or help at least prepare them for what is indeed down the road. I guess in September, beginning of September, CFIB revealed that only 18% of business owners would tell people, yes, you should go out and start a business. Only 18%. And they said that obviously higher costs, the current economy, higher taxes, which something I've been talking a lot about on our show, were the top reasons why they would advise against starting a business right now. What would you say is the biggest impediment for people trying to start a business here in Ontario? Would it be the taxes? Would it be the cost? Or is it a bit of everything?
Well, look, it is certainly a blend of things, but taxes and high cost of taxes, and the incredible length of laundry list of rules and regulations with which you have to comply. Those are some of the things that knock a lot of business owners out in their early days. And yeah, my data that we collected at CFIB was pretty sobering. When you think about only 20% of entrepreneurs recommend entrepreneurship to a young person, that's very different than the RBC data that shows that young people are more optimistic and want to get into business. Years ago, when I would talk to a business owner that was kind of at the succession point, they would be talking about which of their 3 kids they want to have lead their business in the future. I'm more likely now to talk to a business owner who's saying, I don't want any of my kids to have to go through the heck that I've had to go through in order to get into and stay in business. And what does that say about what needs to change in Canada? It shows that we've got a long way to go to make sure that we roll out the welcome mat for entrepreneurs and nurture those entrepreneurs along the way. Look, nobody's looking for, so governments often think that they need to provide more grants or supports or in place. What most business owners want to do is be able to invest back the dollars that they make in the marketplace in those early days back into their business without having everything taxed or regulated away, so that they can then depend on their own earnings to support the next level of growth in that business. But governments seem to ignore that and do everything they can to kind of snuff out the light that is some of these early stage entrepreneurs.
And when we talk about government, obviously a lot of it is the conversation right away goes to taxes. And I've been doing a lot on taxes. My previous show, we had on three tax experts talking about different things, tax fairness and increase in taxes and what that does to an economy, to business in general. So I thought I'd like to, I guess, get your opinion on taxes in
Yeah,
Ontario and Canada in general. Taxes are the number one topic for investors that come into my office. A lot of people looking to save taxes. They want to make
yeah.
money, but how do they pass their estate to the next generation and save taxes? How do they grow their businesses, grow their investments, and pay the least amount of tax as possible? And I guess I asked, as I said, three professionals a similar question, and and what that question was this: what do you think about simplifying the
Yeah.
tax rates? Perhaps even implement a flat tax right across the board for individuals to look at. It would be much simpler. And what do you think about lowering taxes, making things easier, simpler, easier for businesses to get started, easier for individuals to know what a dollar for them is right now. There's so many tax brackets. A dollar to me is a different to a dollar for somebody else, and there really is no, I find there's no stability there. There is no understanding. It's just confusing, and you make a few extra dollars, all of a sudden you're in the next tax bracket. What do you think about our taxes here in Ontario and
Yeah.
in Canada, and what do you think about a flat tax?
So we have some experience with this in Canada. Alberta did put in place years ago a flat tax on the personal income tax side, where it was, I think, 10% with a high threshold, so that you only had, so that it did exempt a lot of low income people from having to pay any tax whatsoever. That kind of model, I think, it has some merit. So simplifying our tax code, absolutely, certainly on board there. Ensuring that the system doesn't, punish success. With the recent capital gains changes, of course, really did hit the hammer if anybody actually made some money from their company and invested it for the future. That has made it a lot more expensive to do that on many levels. Where I might differ, though, is on the corporate income tax side. Often big businesses talk about a flat rate of corporate income taxation. And that is the view that instead of with the suggestion that they get rid of the small business corporate tax rate and just go to one tax rate for all corporations. And while I like the simplicity that offers, what that would mean in the short term is, what that would mean for small business is that they would end up paying an awful lot more. And do you want, at the very beginnings of somebody's career as an entrepreneur, to start hammering them at high levels of corporate income taxes? It's one of the reasons there is a small business corporate tax rate, is to ensure that businesses can use some of the income that they bring in to reinvest in their corporation to get to that next level of success. So we have to make sure that whatever review of the tax code takes place, that we do this in a way that is fair to Canadians. Simplification, I think, makes a ton of sense, but we can't just go holus bolus into adopting a flat rate like that and not looking at some of the unintended consequences that might come along with it.
Right. So maybe a flat tax on the individual side, but not on the corporate side. And that makes sense. And I guess we just went through some of the things that government can do, but and again, it means I guess different things. Government can do different things for different sectors of the economy, different
Sure.
types of businesses. But what would you say if you could say one thing to our government? I know it's tough because there are probably a lot of things you want to say, but what would be the one thing you could tell government, you need to do this to make things better for business in Canada today? What would that one thing be?
Look, I think everything needs to be, all government policies need to be viewed through an economic lens. Is this going to lead to better economic growth and success for the country as a whole? Not just for any one individual or for any business for that matter. But so many policies are thrown into place with zero consideration of their economic impact. And it may look like minor additions of rules, regulations, or taxes at the time, but in total, they add up to a ton. Ontario, for example, while the Premier is talking about all sorts of economic opportunities, they're putting in place labor legislation to prevent an employer from calling an employee outside of regular hours or having to do any work. I mean, these kinds of things sound good, but when you really do look at them, they cause great potential economic harm, and they're not evaluated through that lens. So looking at all government policies through the lens of how they're going to impact the economy and small and medium-sized businesses more specifically is one of the things that we always recommend governments do, especially when there's a change in government, which of course may happen in the days ahead.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people believe that their decisions are made more on revenue generation than unfortunately than other things that perhaps are more important. I thought we'd end off on with a quick question regarding artificial intelligence.
Sure.
AI is the one thing that I talk about almost every day. Tech stocks or artificial intelligence, how it's revolutionizing the way we work, live, do business. Um, are you seeing a lot of AI being incorporated at the small business level, or is this still something that big business is doing? And if it is, how is it helping small business at this point?
So there certainly are lots of small firms that are very much engaged in AI and using it to maximize their potential. But I will say one of the challenges of small business is that they often are, they're often slow to adapt to new technology. We certainly saw that during the pandemic, some of the problems that brought in, where a lot of small and medium-sized businesses were way behind in setting up e-commerce sites, and therefore, when lockdowns came in, they had no way of reaching their customers. So we absolutely need to make sure that we have a good push to ensure entrepreneurs can adopt technologies and changes as they come. And the way that we do that is not by creating new government programs to make that happen, but by allowing businesses to keep some of their own dollars to invest where possible. It's a struggle, though, for small firms. And as an organization that is serving them, we are looking at how we can adopt some AI tools ourselves to be able to give business owners better and more timely information to deal with some of the issues and concerns that they call us about, whether that's on HR, legal advice, etc. So we're in active mode right now, adopting AI to help small businesses get to their next level of success.
And I think it would only help going forward. And this is the future, right? This is how these businesses are going to become more efficient and productive. There's no doubt about that. And I'm sure everyone looks forward to a day where AI is, I guess, even more a part of our lives. And I think it's just a matter of time. So that's something to look forward to. Dan Kelly, President, CEO, and Chair of Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thank you so much for being on our show, especially at the start or kickoff to the Small Business Month for October. It's always a pleasure having you on the show and sharing your insights. And I guess we look forward to having you again on our show down the road.
Always great to be with you anytime. Thanks so much.
Take care.